Welcome to Discovering. The firearm deer season is right around the corner. We'll spark up your taste buds for that opening morning breakfast.
Better than homemade stuff.
Then a new and improved trail in the Ottawa National Forest. And we'll hear more from the DNR about this year's upcoming firearm deer season. Sit back and relax. That's all tonight, right here on Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
The firearm deer season is almost here, and opening morning is one of the most anticipated days of the year. After that ever so special opening morning hunt is over, you head back to camp, or wherever it is you hang your chromer, peel off some orange, and slip into some breakfast. For me, that second half of the morning means camp. A warm fire, and the smell of coffee and bacon. I've heard some people don't drink coffee, but I've never heard of anybody who doesn't like bacon. And here in the land of do-it-yourself, it's not a surprise to find someone who makes his own. So when my buddy Zingy called and said he was smoking bacon, I headed over for a taste.
I'm going to start with this side pork. I'd like to tell you that I raised this hog and butchered it, but we're going to leave that to the people who like raising hogs. So I'm going to mix up some smoked salt. We're going to rub it on there, and also to speed things up, I'm going to inject it. So here we go. This is the smoked salt we mix up for everything. Fish, hams, turkey. The amount of sugar is different. A different amount for what I'm doing. The fish I add more sugar than what I would for the bacon. For bacon, I hate to have it too sweet. You know, if you want it sweeter, you can put some syrup on from your pancakes, but this is how I test it. No more sugar. You can make it as salty or as sweet as you'd like, just by adding one or the other, and I think that ought to do it. So now we're just gonna rub this on here. And usually, if you just use the rub, or if you were to make a brine, it would take like 2 days for every pound in the brine. But we're gonna speed that process up by injecting the bacon. Now I'm going to stand this up in this crock here. And I like using these crocks. Well, for one thing, it stands up in there nice, but when I get the other two in here, it'll be easy to inject it on the edges. Now I'm going to take the remaining salt that I got, make a brine, and inject that into the ends or the sides of them slabs of meat. Pump this in here every 24 hours or so for a few days. Basically the same thing as if you're smoking a ham or a turkey, you want to inject it. It just speeds up the process of the brining. Okay, we're done injecting. What we're gonna do is just set this outside. That's why I like these crocks. At night, the temperature is gonna get down in the 30s, and this stone crock will hold that temperature. Next, we'll be going into the smokehouse. So the bacon's been in here about 3-4 days, and we're gonna get ready to put it in the smoker. I injected it a few more times in between to get the salt in the meat, in the fat. When you're salting meat, the best temperature is like 34 to 40 degrees. If it's lower than 34, the salt won't take into the meat. It won't work. Got to be above that temperature so it'll get into the cells of the meat and do its job. So we're ready to go. I like to put the meat in before I start the fire so I can breathe. A lot of people hang these on a rack that you can buy. I don't have one. So I'll put it on the rack that we put the fish and jerky and stuff like that on. Works pretty good. Sugar maple, hard maple, people use a lot of different stuff. I tried a lot of different things, for instance hickory and apple wood, but I'll always go back to the hard maple. It works best for me. The flavor in it is, for me, I don't know. That's what I like. Other people like different stuff, I guess. Alder and stuff like that. Well, I like to get this bark off of there. It's got that moss on there. And that don't, when that burns, that don't smell too good. So we'll put this on there, let the door open, let the fire go a little bit, let that cedar burn out of there. I don't like smoking with cedar. Well, we stuffed some sausage yesterday, and as long as we got the smokehouse going, we might as well put them in there. This I'll smoke for probably 10-12 hours. Depending upon how the temperature goes. Sometimes it takes a while to get it up to temperature, because you don't want to throw a lot of wood in there and burn it, but yet you want it to get done. Now we're going to let it smoke for 10-12 hours. We get a cold smoke for a while, 6 hours or so. That way the smoke gets into the meat. If you heat it up, it makes like a crust on there, like you sear a steak. It keeps the juices in, it won't let the smoke in. I like to smoke it cold, 100 degrees for 6 hours or so, and then let the temperature come up, get it to about 160, 165 degrees, and we should be done. Well, the bacon's been in there for 10.5 hours now. Looks to me like it's done. So we're gonna pull it out. We'll let the sausage cook for a little while. I think it needs to go a little bit longer. We'll pull that out and bring it in and check it out. We had it up to like 175, and it's down a little bit now as we open the door. We're gonna get the bacon out and rustle up the fire and close it back up for a little bit. So when we started out this morning, you know, the smoker was cold, the meat was cold. You know, after all the rain, it was damp. So we made the fire, and as the day went on, the smoker started warming up, the meat started warming up, and the temperature, you know, got up to like 100. And slowly, as everything warmed up, the meat and everything, Temperature got up to like 150, and we kept adding wood to the fire, of course, but in the end, everything warms up and it starts a cooking, and we got that fire going in there now, and the temperature should go up to about 175 in about an hour or so, 2 hours. That sausage ought to be done. Well, like everything else I make, we got to try it out. We got to try this. Nothing better than homemade stuff.
We all know the Upper Peninsula is home to some of the most beautiful places on Earth. That's why we live here. Millions of acres of forests, miles and miles of scenic trails, and waterfalls galore. In many places, these trails and waterfalls aren't the most easily accessible for everyone. Now there is one spectacular waterfall that is a little easier to get to.
There we go. Well done. It's a beautiful fall UP day. We couldn't have picked a better day to enjoy God's beauty.
Today is a very exciting day for the North Country Trail, the Peter Wolfe chapter. We've got funding that we were given to reroute this trail from US 45 down to the Kun De Kun Falls and the big bridge over the Baltimore River. It's about a 1.5 mile walk that used to be a clay-filled, muddy, slimy, slippery walk. It was a very difficult trail to come down here, and it's such a popular trail that it was very difficult to come down here. People would lose their shoes because it was so sticky and slippery. So now it's a beautiful, easily walked trail with aggregate gravel and a lot of boardwalks and a couple of little bridges. It'll be real easy to come down here with your family now. People had switched to doing this a lot in the wintertime because it was such a slimy mess in the summertime.
I'm one of those who hikes out here more in the winter to avoid the clay and mud. Kun De Kun Falls, also known to some as Baltimore Falls, is located off Highway 45, about 8 miles north of Bruce Crossing in the western UP. It's within the Ottawa National Forest on a section of the North Country Trail.
You know, you've got thousands of miles of trail that run from North Dakota all the way to Vermont. But this section is very special because of the fact, some of the trails have better access to the major roads. This one's got great access, and it's going to get utilized more frequently by a myriad of people, which then the more people that know about it are going to hopefully go to other sections of the trail.
It's just a changed environment out here. Also, just because of that work, it really helps to protect the resource. Before, because people were trying to avoid those not very friendly areas, they would do damage, and it just kept spreading and spreading and spreading. And so now it can be contained, people can stay on the trail. It's just really a win-win all around. I think it has made a lot of people proud and a lot of people very, very happy, which is wonderful when that happens.
We worked on the trail through the summer and fall design-wise of 2018, and this summer 2019 the contractor WR Construction from Negaunee was hired to actually do the improvements on the trail. between all of the rain and the muddy ground, it was quite a challenge for them, but I think they did a really nice job. So it was a real partnership. It was a cool thing between state, federal, and local groups working together to really do something cool here.
It was definitely an all-hands approach, and because of that, it's just been so successful. There were different funding sources that were used to do the improvements on this trail. The Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund, the Iron Bale Trail Program, National Forest Service Challenge Grant Program, and then also the Ottawa National Forest. And all of those contributed different types of money and labor in order to make this happen.
Now that the trail has been improved, I can see myself walking out here more often in the summer and fall months, and I hope other people will too. The more time you can spend enjoying the outdoors here in the UP, the better.
This is about the physical health, but also the mental health that spawns from the physical exertion and the sounds of the falls behind us and the smell of the woods here in the fall. I mean, this is who we are as human beings.
Today there was a gentleman who hiked the trail who had developed accessibility issues and could no longer come here, who came here many times prior to that, and today he was able to come back out here. So that's really the goal, and that's really the reward, that people can visit places like this that otherwise wouldn't be able to.
I talked with the DNR about the upcoming firearm deer season and about what we as hunters can do to help keep the UP CWD free.
Everyone's excited for another deer season in the Upper Peninsula. As we all know, we got a great hunting tradition here in the Upper Peninsula. We want people to get out and hunt. And it looks to be a season similar to last year is what our biologists are anticipating. Last year, we had a winter, but not as extreme as a couple that we've had just a few short years ago that claimed a lot of the deer. And we're still in that sort of bounce back period since then. But what we've seen so far during the archery season is we did see some good bucks come in with good body weights, and we're anticipating that hunters will see a lot of deer and that the hunting harvest will be similar to what it was last year. This firearm deer season, we know that there's some new regulations with a baiting and a feeding ban that's taking place only in the chronic wasting disease core surveillance area, which is part of Menominee, Dickinson, and Delta counties. In the rest of the surveillance area, the regular hunting and baiting regulations remain in effect, like the 2 gallons a day out for bait. We want hunters to get out and participate in the hunt, obviously, and to help with disease control and prevention, get your deer head checked.
In addition to those regulation changes for our CWD core surveillance area, some of the activities going on this season include an increase in our sample goals for both the core surveillance area and our expanded range. So we're still looking for hunter cooperation in achieving those goals, and getting samples ensures that we understand the rate of infection and the extent of the disease within the Upper Peninsula. Still to date, we only have that one positive that was detected in southeastern Waseedic Township, but we're doing what we can to get additional samples to see if in fact that was an isolated case or perhaps there's more on the landscape. And so what hunters can do to submit tissues for sampling is go to one of the local deer check stations. We have increased staffing within proximity to CWD surveillance areas to ensure that we can get hunters checked in and back on the road as quickly as possible. We are also providing again this season those 24-hour self-serve drop boxes. There are 9 located throughout the core and expanded surveillance areas, and this allows a hunter to arrive at a site outside of operation hours and at their own convenience, submit a head for testing. All of the instructions can be found on the drop box. We also have available this year electronic tagging system that helps you identify your hunting location, which is a critical piece for grabbing accurate data for disease testing. So check out those things. In addition to that, the things to know about submitting heads is please have your antlers already removed if you're looking to keep them. If it's a buck harvest, we ask that you remove the head from the body maybe about 2 or 3 inches just below the jawline. That ensures that the tissues that we need for sampling remain intact. Otherwise, if you do show up at a staffed deer check station with the body completely intact, our staff are equipped and trained to be able to just pull the lymph nodes right away. So you don't even necessarily have to remove the head from the body. In addition to that, if you are, successful in harvesting a big buck that you're excited to get a shoulder mount on, there are ways that we can have that deer tested. It's best to contact the local office, DNR office, and ask them for the tips or the procedure to do so. Most often it's just requesting that your taxidermist keep the skull after they have caped out the buck. If you're looking for a European head mount, there's also ways that you can still have your deer tested for CWD. In fact, we can remove the tissues right from the deer without compromising the mount at all. So this season, hunters can expect test results to come back to them within 30 days. Typically, hunters will have to either phone in for their test result, or we do have it available via our website. So either if you stop at a check station or if you use a drop box, you'll see those orange CWD tags. At the very bottom of that CWD tag is a perforated part. It has a 6-digit number. That's the tissue sample number, or the CWD sample number, and that'll be your reference number to get the results of your deer. We're anticipating a lot of samples throughout much of Lower Peninsula. That's resulting in a little longer timeline than previously.
Well, that's it for this week. Be sure to check out 906outdoors.com, where you'll find the 906 fishing report, TV6 weather, shopping, and more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.